Tuscumbia, they were telling me. So this is looking in the general direction of that thunderstorm. And at the very least, you can see that massive wall cloud. So we are talking about a really big, a really powerful storm. And I think we'll keep coming back to this camera probably over the next couple of minutes as this storm continues to evolve and eventually draws closer to Tuscumbia. In the meantime, tornado warning in effect for Lauderdale and Colbert County. That tornado warning is going to run for Lauderdale County. It's going to run until 5 o'clock. For Colbert County, it looks like that tornado warning is going to run until 5:15. Main part of the storm now beginning to slide just to the east of Barton. So if you're in Barton, a little bit of good news there. But if you're in Cedar Hill Estates, if you're in Hawk Pride, if you know anybody in either of those locations, they're certainly going to want to get into their tornado safe place. Again, not only are we talking about a potential tornado here, but this particular storm does have a history of producing some very large hail, getting reports of 2-inch diameter hail, also had reports of hail that was $50 in size. So definitely some sizable hail, and at the same time, this storm also has a history of producing some significant lightning. Now, if we look at the storm as a whole, and I'll go ahead and zoom out because I want you to look at the entire storm. I was talking about just a couple of minutes ago, okay? I was talking about how maybe this storm was kind of getting that hook-like feature. And while it's still there, it's definitely not as defined as it was a couple of radar scans ago. But it's still definitely there where we're kind of around Cedar Hill Estates where you're kind of getting maybe some of that drier air to push its way up into that storm. And really what that drier air is going to do is it pushes its way up into that storm. What's going to end up happening is that kind of adds fuel to that storm. I want to show you that camera once again. Look at that. That is a really impressive view. You can kind of see that massive shelf cloud that is continuing to push its way into Tuscumbia. Also, a little bit of lightning, quite a bit of lightning, as a matter of fact, associated with this storm. This is actually a really good shot. And again, we're looking to the west from Tuscumbia. What I don't see here, while I see a really massive shelf cloud here on this photo, I don't necessarily see any lowering of this storm. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't see any lowering. So that's a little bit of good news there. That's not us that's controlling the camera. This camera is out over in Tuscumbia, and so our friends at the EMA out there, they're definitely going to be the ones that are moving this. But this is a really impressive shot. That is a really, really impressive shelf cloud, and I'm going to ask Emily, just because it is really impressive, if I know she's back there, if at some point you can get on another computer and take a screenshot of that, just because this is a really impressive storm. It's got a lot of lightning. You can kind of see there back on the horizon a little bit of that lightning showing up. And again, this is just a really impressive storm that's beginning to move into Tuscumbia. I know the pole's kind of in the way, but you can kind of still get the gravity of what we're talking about here. But again, what I don't see, I don't see a wall cloud developing. I see more of a shelf cloud, and you kind of get that shelf cloud when you're talking about the leading edge of an incredibly powerful thunderstorm. If we were talking about a wall cloud, we would kind of be looking at more of a lowering feature, something that is a little more separate from the rest of the cloud deck associated with this storm. And we don't really have that wall cloud feature, don't really see that lowering, which is definitely a good sign, because at least for the time being, that means we're not talking about anything tornadic. So a little bit of good news there. We'll keep going back to that every now and again and keep looking at that. Again, that was a view from Tuscumbia. So let's go back and look at our storm. We have technically two different tornado warnings in effect. One for Colbert County that's going to run until 5:15, and then we have a tornado warning in effect for Lauderdale County that's going to run until 5 o'clock. So still about another 11 or 12 minutes left on the Lauderdale portion of that tornado warning. Otherwise, we're talking about the tornado warning for Franklin County. So if you're in the Shoals, you're going to want to be in your tornado safe place. If you're in Florence, you're just on the edge, but I would suggest getting into your tornado safe place just in case. And again, we were talking about that hook-like feature before we took that camera. Again, you can kind of still see it, where maybe we're trying to shovel in some of this drier air near Cedar Hill Estates, just to the north of Bear Creek. A little bit of light rain going on in there, but I also think that maybe we're shoving some dry air in there. And what that dry air is going to do is it's going to kind of add some fuel to that storm. I want to go back up and put the lightning on there. There is a lot of lightning associated with this storm. Even lightning kind of out ahead of this storm, even to the south of the storm, Bear Creek down to Flatwoods. Look at that. Flatwoods not even necessarily included in the tornado warning. A storm several miles to the north, the most intense part of this storm, a couple of miles to the northwest. But that lightning is extending all the way down into Flatwoods. So this is a really powerful thunderstorm, probably the most powerful storm we've seen all day, and is going to affect the highest number of folks here as we get ready to head into rush hour. So let's look at our rotation image here. And we're kind of looking right along the highway, right near Pride Landing. That's kind of what it looks like. We're talking about that would be Highway 72, Woodland, Pride Landing, heading down into Cedar Hill Estates. That's where that tightest rotation is definitely going to be observed. And if you kind of look here, here's Highway 72. The strongest part of this rotation right along Highway 72. So go ahead and draw that circle for you right near Cedar Hill Estates. If you're in Cedar Hill Estates, you really need to be in your tornado safe place. Hawk Pride need to be in your tornado safe place. Pride Landing also need to be in your tornado safe place. If you're in James, you're going to want to be in your tornado safe place. The same can also be said if you're in Hobgood. And then if you're in Muscle Shoals, I also think you're going to want to be in your tornado safe place as well. Radar just updated. I'll eliminate the circle in just a bit. Really impressive wind shear here associated with this storm. Woodland all the way back into Pride Landing, Cedar Hill Estates. Some really impressive wind shear where you're talking about some of this bright green getting into some of the darker red. A lot of that activity being picked up there, indicating some really impressive wind shear. Let's go back and look at our velocity image. That velocity signature still definitely looks kind of impressive. This certainly is not something that we're going to want to write off anytime too soon, especially just given the combination of the wind shear and the velocity image. So something we're really going to want to pay attention to, and we're going to wait for this radar to update here over the next couple of minutes. So tornado warning in effect for Lauderdale County. That's also, they've extended the Lauderdale County tornado warning, going to run that until 5:15. It was previously set to run until 5 o'clock. So both Lauderdale and Colbert County going to run their tornado warning until 5:15 this evening. Again, radar indicated no confirmed reports of a tornado on the ground. This is just simply radar indicated. This is an incredibly strong storm. Look where you're getting into some of the brighter pinks. Now we're getting into kind of this black color here, sitting just to the west of Florence, right over Sheffield right now. If you're in Sheffield, you want to be in your tornado safe place. You're probably talking about a lot of very heavy rain, some impressive thunder and lightning, and at the same time, like I was telling you over the last couple of minutes, this storm does have a history of producing some sizable hail. $half size hail has been reported. 2-inch hail, 2-inch in diameter hail has been reported within this storm. So this is an incredibly impactful and powerful storm, especially here as we approach the top of the hour. We're heading into 5 o'clock. A lot of folks are going to want to be traveling home this evening, heading home from work. So if you know somebody that's going to be traveling and they're going to be traveling through this storm, maybe just give them a heads up. Maybe suggest that if they can stay at work a little longer this evening. I know everybody's always ready to get home from work at the end of the day, right? But I think this evening would be one of those nights when maybe you'd want to consider staying at work a little bit and at least trying to see if this storm is going to weaken. There is a lot of lightning associated with this storm. Looks like this storm just beginning to move into Florence. I know we have a camera that overlooks the Florence Harbor at McFarland Park. I'd like to say I know what direction that faces. But truth be told, I don't know what direction that camera faces at the Florence Harbor there at McFarland Park. So if somebody wants to look at that, if it looks impressive, we can take it. If it doesn't look impressive, then we obviously won't take it. But if you're in Sheffield right now, a lot of very heavy rain, gusty winds, frequent thunder and lightning. And again, this storm does have a history of producing some really, really intense hail. Honestly, I'm going to try, and here's what I want to try. Here's what I'm going to try and do. I don't think that's going to work. Nope, that didn't work the way I'd hoped. So this storm does have a history of producing some really, really intense hail. Again, I was telling you anywhere between $0.5 and hail that is 2 inches in diameter. Let's go back over to our shear rate now, and I'll take those off. Take that off. So wind shear has definitely backed off a little bit as this storm has begun to move into Muscle Shoals, move into Sheffield, eventually going to be moving into Cave Spring. So if you're in any of those locations, you're certainly going to want to be in your tornado safe place. Look at this, just to the south of Sheffield, just to the southwest of Muscle Shoals. Again, if you're in Muscle Shoals, you really want to be getting into your tornado safe place. No confirmed reports of anything on the ground, but the rotation there is definitely really quite intense. That is borderline concerning, but not 100%. The wind shear, not the greatest there. So what we're going to be focused on is the velocity signature. And this is some really tight, really, really impressive rotation here where the reds and the greens are really beginning to come together. Just to the north of Cedar Hill Estates, just to the south of Sheffield, you're kind of riding right along Highway 72, might be just a couple of miles to the north of Highway 72. So again, if you're in Muscle Shoals, you're going to want to be in your tornado safe place. It also looks like we're sitting just barely to the west of Highway 43. So this storm looks like it's going to be crossing Highway 43 right through Muscle Shoals, just to the east of Sheffield, probably within the next couple of minutes. The stronger part of this rotation is going to be sitting just to the south of Florence. So while Florence is definitely going to get an incredibly impactful thunderstorm, it looks like the main area of concern is definitely going to sit just to the south of Florence. But if you're in Sheffield, if you're in Muscle Shoals, sitting just to the north of Highway 72, sitting just to the west of Highway 43, you are certainly going to want to be in your tornado safe place, because this appears to be a really powerful thunderstorm, at least if we look at the radar product and kind of see what this storm is doing. So this is certainly an incredibly powerful thunderstorm. The tight velocity signature showing up on both storm relative velocity and our normal velocity. Look at that uptick in the wind shear. Now we're talking about some really impressive wind shear. This storm continues to grow more and more concerning as it draws closer to Sheffield and Muscle Shoals. Again, here's Highway 72 just to the north of Cedar Hill Estates. That's what we're going to be talking about. Here's Highway 43, runs right through Florence, runs right through Muscle Shoals. Again, we're talking about this area kind of highlighted here in the circle. I've drawn the circle there. We're talking about an area just to the south of Florence, right around Sheffield, right around the Shoals. If you're in Cave Spring, you're certainly going to need to be getting into your tornado safe place sooner rather than later. Just want to take a quick look at the Florence Harbor there in McFarland Park. Really, it just looks like a lot of wind and a lot of rain. The rain definitely coming down. You can kind of see the trees, those are there blowing off in the distance. A couple of folks without covers on their boats. But a lot of wind there. You can kind of see the wind moving across the water. You can see a lot of the trees that are blowing there. So definitely some very intense wind going on there at the Florence Harbor at McFarland Park. So let's go back to the radar. National Weather Service has chosen to issue a downstream severe thunderstorm warning with this particular cell. So again, if you're in Sheffield, if you're in the Shoals, you are definitely going to want to be in your tornado safe place. Looks like the velocity signature has broadened up a little bit. But I still think this is something that is going to bear some attention to. We are still talking about the tornado warning that's going to run for Lauderdale and Colbert counties. That's going to run until 5:15 this evening. And we do see there, so there's the tornado warning for Colbert County. That's going to run until 5:15. If we go out of that tornado warning and we can highlight the severe thunderstorm warning, also in effect for Colbert County, that is going to run until 6 o'clock. So we're going to continue to pay attention to this storm. I certainly want to watch it over the next couple of minutes, because this storm has shown some periods of great intensity, especially here over the last 10 or 15 minutes, currently moving through Sheffield, currently moving through the Shoals. I want to go ahead And I'm going to put another track on this storm if I can actually manage to do that. There we go. No, that's not what I wanted to do. I want to go ahead and put another track on this storm, bearing in mind that this storm has been moving at about 40 miles per hour. So let's take this and just kind of drag it out a little bit, and we'll see if we can't list off some locations for you that are in the path of this storm. There we go. So if you're in Cave Spring within the next 6 minutes, Valley Grove in the next 5 minutes for Cave Spring, 5 minutes for Valley Grove, Layton within the next 11 minutes, Hatton in the next 15, Section in 16 minutes, Foster's Mill in 21, Leonard Hill in 21 minutes, Town Creek within the next 22 minutes, the Wheeler Dam Village within the next 25 minutes, and then we're kind of getting into the next half hour or so. So something we're going to continue to watch and pay attention to over the next several minutes. Again, the immediate threat, definitely going to be the folks, Cave Spring, Valley Grove, Layton, Hatton Section, and Foster's Mill. This storm going to be in your area within the next 5 to 20 minutes. So if you're in any of those immediate locations, really the top of the list, Cave Spring down to Section, you're going to want to plan now and head into your tornado safe place. So that velocity signature really beginning to tighten up once again. So again, I think this is something that bears watching incredibly close. If you're in Hobgood, you really need to be in your tornado safe place, because the strongest part of this storm is definitely beginning to move into your neck of the woods and is going to be in your area probably within the next 3 to 5 minutes. Again, Cave Spring in 4, Valley Grove in 4, heading into Layton in the next 10 minutes, Hatton in the next 14, Section within the next 15 minutes. And this has been a really impressive looking storm. If we just take the storm at face value, and in this case, face value is kind of what we see on the radar, this has been a really impressive storm over the last several minutes. So if you're in Hobgood, you're definitely going to want to be in your tornado safe place. Continue to remain in your tornado safe place. Sheffield down into Muscle Shoals. If you're in Cave Spring, again, you want to be thinking about heading into your tornado safe place within the next 1 or 2 minutes. And then, of course, Layton in Section. I also think you're going to want to be in your tornado safe place. Now, Section technically outside of the tornado warning, but I think we should play it better safe than sorry. And if you are in Section, you need to be getting into your tornado safe place. Again, nothing confirmed that anything is on the ground. So that is a little bit of good news. Let's zoom it back out. I want to look at the entire Tennessee Valley as a whole for just a second and go back to our radar image. So we only have a limited number of things going on across the Tennessee Valley. And we can even look back across northeast Mississippi, where there are a couple of isolated showers and thunderstorms. I don't even necessarily want to call them supercells back across northeast Mississippi, because if you're looking at Corinth, back into Ripley, and then back into Oxford, back into Sardis talking about a severe thunderstorm warning, but all of this activity, Corinth back into Faulkner, Ripley, Hickory Flat, just to the north of New Albany. None of this activity comes with any warnings. So that's a little bit of good news. And at the same time, I also think this, this area, kind of this far northeast Mississippi, far northwest Alabama, is eventually going to get to a point where it's been incredibly worked over. Now, if we zoom things out a little bit more, here's our main line. Here is the main line of showers and thunderstorms that is directly associated with that cold front that's going to move through the Tennessee Valley here over the next 4 or 5 hours. We are still talking about the tornado watch. The tornado watch remains in effect for all of North Alabama, southern Middle Tennessee. That's going to run until 10 o'clock tonight. And the tornado watch is mostly for this line of showers and thunderstorms. My hope is that as this activity begins to move through the Tennessee Valley, it's going to do a fairly decent job at overworking our atmosphere, and at least west of the I-65 corridor is going to begin to diminish the overall threat for severe weather, at least that would be my hope. So a couple of different things at play here. We have a severe thunderstorm warning at play, and that is mostly to account for this here. And then a tornado warning at play. That is to account for the stuff that's kind of in between Muscle Shoals and Cedar Hill Estates. So we can take the severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Lauderdale County. That's going to run until 6 o'clock. Now, the severe thunderstorm warning does extend all the way out into Limestone County. So if you're in Athens, okay, for example, if you're in Athens, Highway 72, through Athens, that severe thunderstorm warning does actually apply to you. Now, you've probably got about another 15 or 20, maybe a half hour, 30 minutes. So that would be before this storm moves into your area. But understand, if you are in Limestone County, you are under a severe thunderstorm warning. Let's go back and throw on the lightning tracker. I want to look at that once again. There is a lot of lightning associated with this storm. We can kind of begin to zoom in a little bit. If you're in Florence, you are talking about an intense amount of lightning. Sheffield, Muscle Shoals, you're talking about some incredibly intense lightning. And I think this lightning is going to continue to be a problem over the next several minutes. Ford City, talking about a little bit of lightning. The strongest part of this storm just beginning to move into Ford City. And then again, this storm also has a history of producing quite a bit of hail, some rather large hail, as a matter of fact. We've seen reports of $half size hail. We've seen reports of hail that is as wide as 2 inches in diameter. So I almost think that might be the bigger problem associated with this storm, is going to be the hail that's $half size in diameter, the hail that's potentially 2 inches in diameter. I think that's going to be the greatest concern. Yes, the gusty winds. Yes, we have the chance of a tornado, but as far as a tornado is concerned, nothing has been confirmed on the ground. So that's the good news. But the problem we know we have the hail problem. We know that the hail has been reported as anywhere between $half size and even 2 inches in diameter. So we know that's where the big concern is. And so that's something that I also want to continue to focus on. So we continue to march our way to the east as we push our way through northwest Alabama, eventually heading into the I-65 corridor. Now, it's still going to be a little bit of time before this storm gets to the I-65 corridor, right? But we're beginning to see a little bit of rain build into Rogersville. We're beginning to see a little bit of rain build into Elgin, maybe some heavier rain. Aqua Vista talking about some heavier rain. Killen, Antioch talking about some heavier rain, gusty winds. Maybe we're talking about a little bit of hail. New tornado warning, not new tornado warning, new severe thunderstorm warning. Looks like that is going to be for Lauderdale and Colbert counties. That is going to run until 5:45 this evening. Again, Killen, Aqua Vista, Alabama Shores talking about some very heavy rain. Hatton talking about some very heavy rain. The strongest part of this storm just now moving into Ford City, where you're talking about this pinkish color. This is where the strongest, the most intense lightning is going to exist. This is where a lot of the hail is going to exist. Just beginning to move into Ford City, just beginning to move into Hatton. That's where the most intense part of this thunderstorm is going to be. This is probably where the power outages are going to come from. If the power outages are going to come from this storm, I anticipate that they would probably come from this section of the storm. This is probably where you're going to get the highest wind gusts as well. So the wind gusts combined with the lightning, and I would anticipate that we're going to end up getting probably several hundred, maybe even if not a couple of thousand a couple of thousand power outages. Now, Emily was just telling me that the tornado warning was just expired, so definitely some good news there. Now, I still do notice a little bit of broad rotation. Now, the tornado warning was expired, but I'm going to stick with you right up until 5:30. So I'll stick with you until we get to Fox 54 News at 5:30, and then, of course, we'll turn things over for your regularly scheduled newscast, and we'll get to that here in about 20 minutes or so. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to watch this line of showers and thunderstorms. Rotation really beginning to broaden up there. So a little bit of good news. And again, Emily was just telling us that, was just telling me, I guess, was just telling me that the tornado warning has been allowed to expire. Still a very strong, very powerful thunderstorm moving through northwest Alabama, and something that I think we need to continue to take very, very seriously. Strongest part of this storm quickly beginning to move into Alabama shores. Aqua Vista, you're beginning to see the intensity pick up a little bit. Big Oak, you're probably going to see the intensity pick up here within the next 2 to 4 minutes. Rogersville, probably within the next 5 to 10 minutes. Ferry Shores within the next 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes at the most. Foster's Mill within the next probably 3 to 5 minutes or so. Lemon Hill, looks like the strongest part of this storm sitting just barely to the north of Lemon Hill. But again, the intensity definitely going to pick up there here within the next few minutes. Really kind of beginning to transition things a little bit. Looks like we're kind of talking about more in the way of severe thunderstorm warnings across the Tennessee Valley. And that's certainly a little bit of good news. Now, I also kind of want to prove how fast that 40 miles per hour is actually a somewhat high level of speed. We can zoom in here if my camera will let me zoom in. I want to zoom in. I might just take the lightning here. I'm going to go ahead and take the lightning off. Now, as quickly as this storm is moving into any specific location, it's also not going to stick around very long. For example, here's Florence, here's Muscle Shoals, back down into Cedar Hill Estates, Bear Creek. Definitely a stronger thunderstorm here back off to the west, but the strongest part of this storm has since moved out of the area. And when it moves out of the area, it's going to clear things up somewhat quickly. As a matter of fact, do we have the ability to take the Florence camera again, if we can at least get it ready, and then just let me know when you're good to take it. So beginning to quiet down already. Florence, Muscle Shoals still talking about quite a bit of rain, but the strongest part of this storm definitely has moved to the east of Florence, Killen all the way down to Foster's Mill, where you see some of the darker reds getting into a lot of the brighter pinks, even getting into some of those blacks. There's the Florence camera once again. And again, I want you to think about the Florence camera here, but then think about the Florence camera that I showed you 5 to 10 minutes ago, and it was a very different scene. We had the very intense wind, we had the very intense rain, and yeah, we certainly have the cloud cover, and they're going to get a little more rain, of course, but definitely a much quieter scene. So this storm is moving with a level of speed. I don't know, maybe 40 miles per hour doesn't sound like a lot to you. We can come back to me, please. 40 miles per hour may not sound like a lot, but these storms are moving with a level of speed. And I do want to reiterate, the tornado warning box, the polygon, is still there, but the tornado warning, meteorologist Emily Owen was telling me that the tornado warning is no longer in effect. So instead, what we're going to be looking at is the severe thunderstorm warning. The strongest part of the storm sitting just to the north of Town Creek. So here's Town Creek, here's Rigdon. We're looking at an area that is sitting just to the north, sitting to the north of Hillsboro. All of this activity beginning to move into Rogersville, beginning to move into Dogwood. We're going to begin to see this activity move into Athens. Probably going to be talking about this activity moving into Athens in the next 15 or 20 minutes. As a matter of fact, we can go ahead and I'll just put a track on this storm, and I'm going to track it kind of from the center here. So this is what I want to do. And I'm going to take this out, not that far. Maybe not it. Maybe I overestimated how fast this is going to get to Athens. So within Wheeler Dam Village within the next 7 minutes, Rogersville in the next 14 minutes, heading into Dogwood within the next 23 minutes, Poplar Creek within the next 28 minutes, Cairo within the next 27 minutes, Casey looks like within the next 24 minutes. So storm moving to the east at about 40 miles per hour. So here's what I kind of want to do. I'm going to zoom this out. I'm going to look at the Tennessee Valley as a whole, and I want to see if I can quickly get a power outage map pulled up for you. I am going to attempt to do this. This is going to take me just a second. I also want you to look at the tornado watch. Tornado watch still in effect. That is going to run until 10 o'clock this evening. Okay, I have a power outage map. So here's the latest power outage map for you. So here's what we want to look at. And this is current power outages. And I want to look at a couple of different things. So I'm just ordering some different things here to go through these. And as a matter of fact, we'll start here in Huntsville. So I just want to show you this just real quick. Live look out over the Parkway this evening. We're quiet here as far as the city of Huntsville is concerned. Here's the power outages. 2,000 customers being reported without power in Lauderdale County. So that storm moved in somewhat quickly. And this is just an estimation. I would probably assume, I would go ahead and assume that this number is a little bit higher. 2,000 customers reported without power in Lauderdale County. Several hundred customers reported without power in Colbert County. The number has not populated, but this is going to be directly associated with the showers and thunderstorms that are moving through. So again, 2,000 customers reported without power in Lauderdale County. The number has not yet populated in Colbert County, but it can be assumed several hundred at least reported without power. Tornado watch is going to remain in effect for all of North Alabama, southern Middle Tennessee. Tornado watch is going to run until 10 o'clock this evening. The good news about this line of showers and thunderstorms is that we're not really talking about an overnight event across the Tennessee Valley. As a matter of fact, here's going to be that line. So we have this activity out ahead of the line, which we kind of expected this, right? We expected activity to begin to move into the Tennessee Valley for 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 6 o'clock in the evening. But then by the time we get to 7, 8 o'clock this evening, then we expect that main line of showers and thunderstorms to move into the Tennessee Valley. Now, this main line is going to be directly associated with that cold front, and that cold front's going to do some good for us. But if we have the chance, we'll talk about that tonight on Fox 54 News at 5:30, which starts here in just about 15 minutes. Tornado watch extending all the way back into northeast Mississippi. Tornado watch extending all the way up, as a matter of fact, through Tennessee, heading up into Nashville. Maybe you know somebody that's coming in on a flight this evening, at least for the next couple of hours. I would imagine that they're probably having some issues at BNA. And then also talking about showers and thunderstorms extending all the way up into the state of Kentucky. Let me go back and switch it back over to the radar, and we'll bring it back home into North Alabama, southern Middle Tennessee. That'll take me just a second to do here. So we bring it back into the Tennessee Valley, and we can continue to look at these are isolated showers and thunderstorms, supercell thunderstorms that, again, we expected to move into the Tennessee Valley. None of this activity comes with tornado warnings. The tornado warnings have been allowed to expire. So instead, what we're talking about, just some very powerful thunderstorms. And we can kind of look a little closer back into northeast Mississippi, where none of this activity comes with severe thunderstorm warnings or tornado warnings. And so that's a little bit of good news. And we're gonna take that as good news, that we're not talking about any warnings back across northeast Mississippi. So instead, what we're going to continue to watch, showers and thunderstorms across Lauderdale County, down into Colbert County, maybe the northern fringe of Lawrence County there, beginning to see some of this activity move into Limestone County, and it's going to continue to push its way into Limestone County. If you're in Athens, maybe you're beginning to talk about a little bit of rain. Lawson, probably beginning to talk about a little bit of rain. Alabama Fork, Rogersville, Dogwood, you're talking about some rain. This activity beginning to move out of Ford City. This activity beginning to move out of Killen. Some more heavier rain beginning to move into Florence and Muscle Shoals, back into Bear Creek, down into Bear Creek, I guess would be a more appropriate term. And then back into Littleville. We can go all the way back. Cherokee still talking about some shower and thunderstorm activity, back into Allsboro, Minot, up into Bacon Springs, back into Waterloo, beginning to dry out in Waterloo. So again, Florence, the rain has picked up once again. Muscle Shoals, the rain has picked up once again. Bear Creek, again, talking about some heavier rain. Now the lightning not as bad with this little cell that's once again moving into Florence. It appears that the severe thunderstorm warning has been continued into Madison County by the looks of it. And it looks like the biggest concern definitely going to be the threat for 2-inch hail. And it looks like we're also going to be talking about 60-mile-per-hour winds. So we are talking about some incredibly large hail as this storm begins to move into the area. So severe thunderstorm warning for Lauderdale, Limestone, Madison, Lawrence, and Colbert County. So going to continue to pay attention to this. And now eventually we will transition you over to Fox 54 News at 5:30 just because we're not talking about any tornado warnings, but understand that the fringe of this severe thunderstorm warning now includes Madison County. Does not include the Huntsville Metro, but does include Madison County at this point. So take note of that. That this very strong thunderstorm is going to be moving into Madison County, probably, I would anticipate within the next half hour or 45 minutes or so. Rogersville getting a lot of very heavy rain, definitely some gusty winds. And then we're going to continue to watch this here. We're back into Elgin. Again, talking about some very heavy rain, very gusty winds. Still picking up on a lot of very intense lightning associated with this storm. And so that's something I also think we want to pay attention to. Hatton, Ford City, Aqua Vista, you're now on the back edge of the strongest part of this storm. But again, there is more back off to the west. So Aqua Vista, Ford City, Hatton, you're not necessarily out of the woods, but you're also not really in the woods as bad as you were with the strongest part of the storm that was moving through your area not too terribly long ago. You're going to end up getting, you can kind of look back off to your friends in Florence, East Sheffield, Muscle Shoals. You can kind of look back to your friends there and see what they're getting now. They're getting another round of heavy rain, some gusty winds. But the strongest part of this storm has definitely transitioned to the east of Aqua Vista, Alabama shores, beginning to move out of Hatton, beginning to move out of Leeton. And this storm is actually staying relatively north of Town Creek. I would anticipate that this little fringe here, kind of extending down from Hatton down into Leeton, is going to begin to move into Town Creek. But for the most part, the strongest part of this thunderstorm definitely going to miss Town Creek. So definitely some good news there for our friends in Town Creek. Rigdon looks like the strongest part of this storm definitely going to miss you. You might not even get any rain. Hillsboro, we're heading far south of the severe thunderstorm warning at this point, but just wanted to list a couple of different cities. Lexington up towards Powell, Leicester, Bethel, you're certainly going to get some rain, but this activity is drawing directly to the east. So if it is south of you or if it is north of you, it is going to stay south of you or it is going to stay north of you because this intense thunderstorm is drawing directly to the east. And again, been moving to the east at about 40 miles per hour. Let's go back and look at our velocity image. Again, no tornado warning associated with this storm, but I do think it's good just to check in. Talking about some wind damage in Florence, not entirely sure what that wind damage is, whether it's structural of any kind or whether it's some fallen over trees. But we do have some wind damage reported out of Florence, and I'm not surprised. We are talking about a very strong thunderstorm that does have the potential of producing 60 or 70 mile per hour winds. Look like we're talking about maybe some tighter rotation just to the north of Town Creek. I don't 100% buy that. Just because it is displaced a little bit, maybe associated with this, but this isn't really the strongest part of this storm here. Hatton down into Leeton, just beginning to move into Town Creek. That's not really the strongest part of the storm. We're also getting to an area across the Tennessee Valley where it gets really somewhat difficult to explicitly rely on one radar. You know, a lot of times, and if you've lived here for a prolonged period of time, you know that we use two different radars when we're doing severe weather coverage or really coverage of any kind, whether it's just rain or severe weather coverage or snow. We use two different radars. We use a radar out of Columbus, Mississippi, and then we obviously use Huntsville High Top as well. And then if we're talking about a severe thunderstorm all the way down into Coleman County, then we also might use Birmingham's radar as well. But we're kind of getting into this point, I digress, we're getting into this point across the Tennessee Valley where it's kind of difficult to have to choose between the Columbus, Mississippi radar and then the Huntsville high top radar. It kind of gets into be this really fuzzy area. I still want to point out that we are talking about a very powerful thunderstorm here. Rogersville, Dells Vista Shores, again, pulling just to the east of Aqua Vista. If you're in Aqua Vista, if you're in Hatton, you're basically out of the woods at this point. Now, again, this storm does have a history of producing 2-inch hail, 2-inch in diameter hail. And then we're also talking about wind gusts 60 to 70 miles per hour. If you're in Athens, you're beginning to see a little bit of rain. If you're in Ripley, you're beginning to see some more rain at this point. Tanner, you're probably dry for the time being, but I would anticipate that that's going to change here sooner rather than later. Here's what I want to do. I do want to take a look at the Huntsville radar just for a quick second, and it almost looks identical at this point as we move into Rogersville. And then I want to go ahead and let's look at the lightning. Still talking about some very intense lightning associated with this storm. And I think the lightning, the wind gusts, and the hail are going to be the primary concerns. And we knew that that was going to be the primary concern. We knew that as storms moved in, tornadic activity was going to be somewhat of a secondary threat, especially as it appears that these storms are kind of beginning to congeal a little bit more. Look at this. We kind of have this mass of showers and thunderstorms, Lauderdale down into Colbert County, Lawrence County, heading up into Limestone County. We're not really at this point talking about individualized supercells. So what we're kind of talking about is this mass of showers and thunderstorms. And believe it or not, it is more difficult for a mass of showers and thunderstorms to maintain their intensity than it is for an individualized supercell. And I was trying to communicate that with you last night. We were talking on Facebook. Of course, we were talking on Fox 54 News at 9 o'clock that the individualized supercells were what I thought was going to be the problem, that they were going to develop kind of between that 3 and 5 o'clock time frame. And if those individualized supercells came to fruition, then there would be an increased tornado threat associated with that. But now as we're kind of getting into this mass of shower and thunderstorm activity, we're certainly talking about some stronger thunderstorms. We have the severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Limestone County. That's going to run until 6 o'clock this evening. We're not talking about the individualized storms as much. Primary concern going to be the threat for some incredibly intense lightning, and then these storms do have a history of producing some hail. So we saw a lot of hail moving through Florence, and that's something we're going to continue to pay attention to. So here's what I want to continue to do. I'm going to go back, and I'm just going to kind of run through a couple of different things real quick, if I can find my cursor. Let's go back to the power outages map, and I kind of want to look at this. So Lauderdale down into Colbert County, still no updated number from Colbert County just yet, but we are still talking about reportedly 2,000 customers reportedly without power in Lauderdale County. And like I was telling you about 5 or 10 minutes ago, I guess, when I first showed you this, I would anticipate that this number is probably a little bit higher. It could be a little bit higher. It could also be a lot higher, but we had some very intense wind move through Lauderdale County here over the last several minutes. So I would anticipate that there's probably more than 2,000 customers reported without power in Lauderdale County. Tornado watch still in effect for all of North Alabama, southern Middle Tennessee. That tornado watch is going to run until 10 p.m. Remember, what we're currently getting across the Tennessee Valley is not the main line of showers and thunderstorms. That's why we have the tornado watch that's in effect until 10 o'clock this evening, because that main line of showers and thunderstorms is probably still a couple of hours away from North Alabama, southern Middle Tennessee. So tornado watch remains in effect. That's going to run until 10 o'clock this evening. And again, it's going to be also associated with this line of showers and thunderstorms that's beginning to move through Mississippi. And you can kind of see the difference here. Here's what we're talking about. Here's what we're going to continue to talk about here across northwest Alabama. And you can kind of see how that differs with this line of showers and thunderstorms. So it's kind of the two are kind of separated a little bit. I'll give you one last look at the radar, and then I will send things over to Kenesha Dees for Fox 54 News at 5:30. So we bring the radar back to a local level, beginning to see the activity draw closer to the I-65 corridor. Eventually, we're going to see this activity build into the Huntsville metro area. The severe thunderstorm warning has been continued for Madison County. Does not include the city of Huntsville just yet, but Madison County, Limestone County included in the severe thunderstorm warning. Back into Lauderdale and Colbert County, we're talking about some very gusty winds, some intense lightning, and again, these storms do have a history of producing some frequent hail. If anything should change in the next couple of minutes, obviously, I will be back with you, and I'll be back with you in probably the next 5 or 10 minutes anyway. But in the meantime, I'll send things over to Kenesha Dees.